Hey, ladies.
Hey,
Hello.
Hi.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
hello, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How we doing?
It's first time that we see each other this early, right?
I know, right? So I'm actually going to give a quick disclaimer. I'm in a different part of my house, which my dog might bark a bit. So ignore that. And yeah, it is this early. It's early for us, but I like this. It's a different time for us to get together. And we
Yes.
have some cafecito, and I don't feel guilty about having coffee at 7 o'clock at night.
Sorry. It's like it's too early for me. But I rather do it now. I have my tea. I have you
Mm.
ladies. What have we been up to? I mean, my life is I'm not saying it's back to normal, but anyway, what have you guys been up to?
You're
Anything?
getting back to normal a little by little, I guess, right? You said
Well,
you're working back that.
yeah.
For me, let's see, what have I been up to? I think I've been slowly trying to get back to normal as well. I've had some like dental work in the last couple of weeks, maybe month or so. So, my face or my talk has kind of slowed down is because of that. But in the meantime, it's given me the opportunity to start reading again. Though I've been reading, I haven't not read, but I mean like actually holding a book versus
Yeah.
listening to Audible. But yeah, having dental work, it kind of teaches you to shut up and listen
And
or
then
shut
probably
up and
waiting in
read.
the waiting room, giving you that
Yeah.
time to read.
Well,
Um,
also with having that much pain, you don't want to talk as much, or it's hard to talk. Not that I don't want to, it's just more like, ah.
It's also a great way to start your day, reading maybe a chapter or even ending your day, just to read a
Yeah,
chapter.
we're commuting. When you're in the commute, like if you commute in the train, because nothing you drive.
Yeah.
I know that
don't read and drive. Yes.
don't read and drive unless it's an
I,
audible.
I listen to our podcast while I drive.
Aw, that's great. So wait, is today's podcast everything, anything, and all things books? Or yeah,
Why
books, right?
not? I want to hear what you're reading. I mean, I haven't picked up a book in months, but
I picked up this book. It's called Too Late. It's by Colleen Hoover. We've
Oh,
read
yes.
her book. She's the one that wrote It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us.
Yeah.
Um Billy, is that a ghost mug, by the way?
it is. I know.
I
But
have the same one.
it has passed. But my niece
I'm
gave
so
it to me to my
total
birthday.
ADD moment.
I was trying to hide it, but she saw it. No, it's
Because
bothering.
I love that ghost mug. I just put my ghost mug away. Well, last month, but
All right, guys.
yeah. So I'm reading. I love my ghost mug. I have Jason's mug, which is he should have prepared my coffee in a different mug. It's called the best person ever,
Oh
but
no,
it
it's
should
meant
have
for
been on.
you.
Yeah, thank you. I know. Secretly, I gave it to him for me.
Here's a
But
hint.
yeah, I'm reading this book, Colleen Hoover. I'm only I think I'm like 3 chapters in. She starts this book with certain chapters named after the characters. So she's introducing each character.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually gives a disclaimer about this book because this book is not like her other genres, which I have never read a lot of her books. So I don't know what her typical genre is. I think it's like sex and like love and all this stuff and happy, somewhat go lucky stuff. Though Ends With Us wasn't so happy go lucky, but it was kind of we've woven in there. This one, it seems like it's a thriller. It's giving me 21 Jump Street kind of vibes. So essentially, it's a girl who is in college and she's dating, I believe, a drug dealer who 2 other guys are pretending to be in college, but they're cops undercover going after her boyfriend. And the book starts very raunchy, where she's like, I wake up to him being on top of me, pretty much like this is what I'm used to. I just have to be his at his beck and call. And so it's an interesting read to say the least so far. But she does apparently this book, um, just to kind of wrap up this book, she apparently started to write it on Facebook for free and
Mm.
then she published it. So this is a very interesting thing. So, reading is my little escape from life, which is why we started a book club, which is interesting. We were all in the English house in high school. So, our school had like different houses and we always read, but I wasn't a big reader. What about you, ladies? I kind of been rambling.
I've been a big reader since I think middle school. I think in
Mm-hmm.
elementary school, I was in a bilingual class throughout kindergarten to fifth grade. And at some point in elementary school, I was in like some help, I guess, for reading. I don't
Okay.
remember what it was called or what it's called now. And that's where I kind of like learned and found the love for books and
Mm.
started reading a lot of books and did that throughout my middle school. And like you said, Betsy, we were in teaching house and we had our English teacher who we still keep in contact with. And I still read, not as much as I would want to read. And I do pick up a book when I'm on breaks, especially in the summer. I've read Colleen Hoover's books. They're great. I think they are like kind of like lovey type of book, out of love.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
recently I haven't read anything. And I think the last book was not the one that ends with us. What's the other one? The
It
last.
starts with us, which is a
Yes.
second chapter, which is a
Right.
second
That's
sequel.
I think
It's
that
the
was the
sequel, yeah.
last book I read, and I think it was during the summer. And I liked
Okay.
it. It was a great book,
You
but
did? Did you like the second one? Because
I did.
we chose in our book club not to read it because we were
Yeah.
like, I think we like the fact that it ended with the way it ended.
Yeah. No, I liked
Okay.
it. I liked it. I mean, it's kind of like you close that one chapter and then you start another chapter. It's like in your life.
Mm.
So I really
Hmm.
enjoyed it. I really liked it.
Okay.
I
Okay.
have not picked the book up since then. And
Mm.
it's unfortunate because I wish I had the time for sure.
Mm.
But definitely I support my public libraries. I don't buy books. I always
Mm.
go and ask for them in the library because I don't like to. It's nice to have a library of your own for sure at home, but I do not like to accumulate books in my home at all.
I have books in my house in
And
different places.
I can't do Audible. I cannot do any of that. I'm old school. I have to crack a book. I have to physically change the page. I cannot do Audible. I cannot.
Mm.
I cannot.
What about you, Billy? Let us know how's reading been for you?
Um,
Or
I've been
books, I
reading
mean.
since I was a kid. I remember, well, so back when we were kids, right? When we were watching TV, there were commercials. So you had time to go to the bathroom, you had time to grab a snack or whatever. I remember when there was commercials, I would need to use the bath. If I had to use the bathroom, I would grab something to read real quick and then go to the bathroom. I just remember always reading,
Mm.
and loving to read. When I was in middle school, I used to go to the library every single day after school. Such a nerd, right? But and it
No,
wasn't just
that's
reading; it
great.
was also like the Where's Waldo. I'm so good at spotting like things. I think because of Where's Waldo, and I used to love those like those spooky stories and goose. I was into
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps, all that. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, I've always really loved reading. And whenever someone mentions, like now in the adult life, like, or there's a movie that came out after the book, I'm just like, nah, it's going to ruin the book for me. So I really tend
Mm-hmm.
not to watch any movies or shows that are based on books. I think we had one good experience with the book club. Sorry, we had dogs. We know what it's like, you know. It's just like, and they know the perfect moment when to start to bark. I forgot what book we read, Betsy, where we saw that with Reese Witherspoon.
Oh,
Wild.
Little Fires Everywhere.
Yeah, that was pretty good actually. But a lot of things that I've read where I'm just like, but I haven't read since our last book, I believe, in the
Oh,
book club.
Solito. Yeah, we never
Yeah.
discussed it. So I don't know if I think we've said this in the some of our episodes. So there is a fourth August baby who lives in Florida. I've been friends with her for as long as I've been friends with the ladies. Actually, no, I've been friends with you guys longer than her. But she's part of our book club. So Billy, myself, and Xiomara are part of a book club, and we meet pretty regular. Well, we haven't met in a while, but we meet pretty regular. We've read Solito, right, Billy? That was the
Yeah,
last
I'm
one.
gonna be honest, and I think I told you, ladies, I was like, I think it was like the last time we met, I think, was before August.
Yeah.
And yeah, things were happening. But when you said something about the book that we read, It Ends With Us, I think something like that, we didn't really like it, or something about the ending.
No. We didn't read the part 2.
Yeah, there was something that you said, and I was like, I remember when we finished the book, and I remember telling you guys, I don't love the ending. I remember sharing that with you guys. And spoiler alert to anyone who's reading it, cover your ears. You know, I typically love this whole like happy ending where families are together, and it didn't end like that in this book, but it did end where the mother of the child, where it ends with us. It ended because there was domestic violence. So I was like, not all happy endings don't have to mean like a family united or like together.
Correct.
Like,
Yeah.
like this happy ending was different, but it was still happy. So it took me a minute to like digest that. And especially because I work with people and I can't always keep the families together. Sometimes they're just better when they're apart, So it took me a moment to like reflect on that book and just be like, you know what, actually I do. And now that I'm thinking about it and like digesting all this information, and just I actually like how it ended, because it was a different happy ending. It's not like
So are you going to read the second book?
No, I didn't want to read it because I felt like, now she was just adding too much. Sometimes it just needs to end sometimes, you know?
I have it on my Audible. I might finish it just because I'm curious to see how she adds this next chapter to her life. Because as a person that has ended a relationship then moved on, I'd like to see how that would work. Because sometimes, happy endings and happy endings, like you said, aren't necessarily your traditional, what society tells you what happy endings are supposed to be like. You know what I mean? Like the happy ending is that she picked her. It could be that, or that she, went on this amazing trip and it's not the person that she fell in love with. Happy endings can be anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have it on my Audible list. I'm all for all types of books. I like Audible. I like to hold the book. It depends on the book. There's certain books that I would rather listen to than actually hold, especially like self-help books. I've always struggled with reading. So I actually didn't start enjoying truly enjoying books until I was an adult. But yeah, I have that one on my Audible.
See, you girls are well, Billy was talking about how the book didn't have a happy ending for her. And I know you girls like to talk about the movies and how you guys get like really, really invested in these characters.
Oh, girl.
These
There are
stories,
tears sometimes.
right? That's what I was going to ask you. Do these stories affect you guys?
Oh yes.
the
For
movie?
me, I mean, I can visualize. Like, so we read why am I saying the wrong title?
The Nightingale? The
The
Nightingale.
Nightingale.
Everyone,
I read that too.
go out and read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but The Nightingale, I can tell you, I just recently watched oh gosh, this new short series. And honestly, so I'm a very vivid person when it comes to just in things in general. So as I'm reading the book, it had like small moments where I kind of got bored. So that's when I did the Audible. So I'll switch into that. But for 85% of the book, I could pick up that book and read it thoroughly. And at the end, I was sobbing out of sadness, happy tears. It was just a beautiful and amazing love story between two sisters. I cannot wait into the movie. I really hope they do the book justice.
Yeah.
If you guys are looking for a book, The Nightingale is an amazing story. It's a historical fiction book written by Kristen Hahn, I believe. I love that book. It was amazing.
We read it in
It was
book,
so good.
and all three of
I
us
don't know about
loved it.
shedding tears.
You didn't shed a tear. Well, you don't shed tears unless a dog dies.
Facts.
No dogs. Well, dogs probably did die because it was during a war, but not in this book.
I've yet to shed a tear in a book or a movie.
Oh my
So
God. What was that other book that made me sob for days? And I was like, the bitch needs to fucking die already because.
the one that they have the Netflix, isn't it? The one in the
Yeah.
Netflix.
What series is that? I'm sorry, guys. I'm
Uh,
the name and all of
Fireflame Lane.
Fire
Fireflame.
Flame. Yeah.
that. Yes. That was when I was like, I need to take a break from crying. Let's get back to crying in July because that book, it just,
Well,
it was just, it was
we
hard.
read a couple hard books. We read
Mhm.
Caste, which was a very difficult book to read. It's a not a nonfiction book, and that was hard in itself. And then I think we've read Kristen Hahn's book, The Fireplane, and then right after that we read um The Nightingale. So it was a lot of emotional books to the point where my kids and Jason were like, "What the fuck?" Like,
Yeah.
I can't laugh too hard. Like, why are you crying? Like, why are you reading these books that keep making you cry? And I'm like, because I like it. I don't know why.
Yeah, and then we were like, there's a problem here, because before that we read that book about the family that had like 7 or 8 kids who had, um, what was the title of that book?
That was the oh
Uh,
my God. Hold
Hill,
on. Let me look at my list. I
Old
have it up. I
Road,
have it up
Old
because
Road.
I can't remember everything. We read the Hidden Valley Road, and that's a nonfiction book. It's about the family who all, like, I think 6 of the 12 members suffer from schizophrenia, and they're the first to be studied in history. Actually, a lot of the medication and treatments in schizophrenia have changed because of this family. And all the ones that have, I think it was 12 kids. And uh, of the 12, only the boys, 6 of the boys have it.
Yeah,
None of the girls do.
so it was hard.
Very interesting read if you're,
Yeah, we read difficult books,
yeah.
but I do appreciate that it's not just all about like happy, because life isn't all about happy moments. There are happy and
Nope,
sad
nope.
moments. Life is about everything. And I love, when I used to work with children, I used to tell them like, why don't you read? Reading takes you to all these magical places that we can't physically go to sometimes, and I think there's just so much power. I always tell them there's also so much power in words. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I just, yeah, I unfortunately, I think only one of my nephews is into reading, the other 4 not so much, and I would love for them to want to read more. But I don't know, I think you just sometimes have to find the right book, or
Mm-hmm.
find people like the teachers that we had in high school. Forget about it, they were amazing. They loved reading, they loved teaching us the love for reading, and I think that also kind of cultivated even more of a love for books and for reading, because I think if
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't have felt as passionate, maybe we wouldn't be reading today. Maybe we would, who knows, right? But I think the fact that they loved reading so much and they were so into their books, even though they had read it already with 6 other grades, like six, it just makes such a difference.
Yeah.
So definitely shout out to those teachers, educators who are really passionate about what they're teaching, because that resonates with, how the students will start to feel
Well,
about
I
certain
also
things.
think that if you read a book, well, at least for our teachers who have read it multiple times with multiple grades during different times of years and generations, you get a really different perspective from what,
Mm-hmm.
we might have read the same book, and, Betsy sobbed, Billy, you were like, oh my God, very sad. And I didn't. So it's everyone
Yeah.
really takes it in
Yeah.
very differently for sure.
But I think also for reading for kids, and you as a teacher of Nathy, though your kids can't read because they're like 3.
Yeah.
I think people really misunderstand, though. They can't read. You can read to your
Right.
kids.
Correct.
I
Hmm.
know for me, reading was a big deal from when I was raising my kids because I know I struggled with reading. So I am a slow reader. And sometimes it takes me a minute to kind of fully grasp getting into books, though I've always been interested in books. So I never really, as a younger kid, like middle school, I wasn't into reading too much because it wasn't cool. It was like Billy said, we use the nerd term, and nerd is cool now. No, but nerd is cool now. And for me, I never, I came from Puerto Rico, and so I had not a language barrier, but reading wasn't a big thing in my house. I didn't grow up with people reading to me or having books in my house. But then there were certain books. My mom had this great way of, she wanted to teach me things, but she didn't know how or how to explain things. So she would buy me these books. I remember when she wanted to talk to me about puberty, she bought me a book, an American Girl book about puberty and all this stuff, which actually she found maybe like 5 years, maybe 10 years ago, and gave it to me. So this was her way of trying to teach me something that she couldn't articulate well enough. I remember where she also gave me Are You There, God? With, was it? It's Me, Margaret. I don't know if you guys ever read that book. It's a great YA book that she gave to me as a kid. Xiomara just recently read it with her daughters. The movie came out. I'm not going to go into it. I think you guys should pick it up. Not you guys, but our audience members, especially if you have young girls. Great book to listen to. But reading, what I was trying to get at is, I feel like certain people struggle with it for many reasons. Dyslexia, not having the skill sets, not having it accessible at home, and then feeling like you're forced to read. My kids have kind of calmed down the reading, which I hate that they don't read as much as they used to. But I also know that they have kind of lost that love, and it's something that you have to cultivate. What about you, ladies? How do you feel like, or what your recommendations to cultivate love for reading?
So for my students, because they're so young and they're in the age of, oh, let me make the teacher happy, let me make this adult happy, and they like to copy, they like to imitate. So you have these young children at home. If they see you pick up a book and you're reading to them or you're reading to yourself, then they'll pick up a book for sure.
Yeah.
So that's very important. I read multiple times throughout the day. I suggest different books to parents. We act out books. We talk about them. We discuss them. And like I said, even as our teachers in high school, these kids have so many different things to say about this one book that I've read for so many years and so many times. So for sure, the kids will pick up if you pick up the book, if you at home pick up a book for yourself or for them.
What about your nephew, Billy? What's the one that you said he's the only one that really reads?
Well, now he's in college, so his learning is, he's had to sorry, I'm just like trying to breathe over here. He has, schoolwork. It's a little bit more, time consuming than it was in high school, I think. So I don't know if they're probably just reading textbooks now, which I get, because that was, whenever we were in school, that's all that we really had time to read. But yeah, I agree. I totally agree with Nathy. I mean, kids, I think at any age, and even when they're older, like if you're on your phone and you're like, read, well, you're not reading. You're not setting that example. So you kind of have to set that example regardless of how old they are. And so I haven't mentioned, because I used to mention the book clubs to them all the time. They'd be like, you want the book club again? And I'd be like, yeah, because Betsy and I and Tiamara, we used to meet every Friday, or try to meet every weekend. And they'd be like, you want the book club again? And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, I love how we did our book club, because we would meet every week. So we would break it down into chapters, where I know some book clubs, they read the whole book and then they meet. I can't do that because I'm going to forget what I read. So like, I do need a book. I do purchase books. I like to keep them. I like to think that one day I'll go back to reading them. But I do like to write notes in my book, because if not, then I'll forget what it is that I read, or something that I found really interesting that I want to talk about during book club. So I like how we had our book club, because we met every week. So we were able to really go in depth into these chapters, into the characters, into the happenings of what was going on, because meeting once a month was just, so they'd be like, you're in book club again? And I'm like, yeah, we read books, we meet. I mean, to me, it's fun.
Yeah. It's a great, I can't wait until we start. I would like for us to start up again, because it was a great way to catch up with you girls. And then it was a great way to kind of go dive deep into a book, because sometimes you read a book and it moves you in a certain way, but when you're trying to, like, I don't know, immerse yourself in it to be able to have a discussion, you kind of go into it a little more and you figure that out, so I kind of miss doing that. Though the last book I read before this one, I mean, Evelyn Hugo, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo's, oh, amazing. Nathy, if
Mhm.
you pick a book up, or Billy, pick this one up. I actually did this book hold what's it called? I had both Audible and the book with me. I am all for do whatever works for you. Pick up a book, go to the library, support your library. Yes, 100%. And two, I like to purchase books that I know that I will either pick up or hope that one day one of my kids or someone who comes over can pick up a book. So I like to have all options. Um, but what I was going to try to get at was the book clubs. For those of you that are trying to find other ways to do, book club is a great way, but I wouldn't start with a big group, especially if you're just starting. That's a great way to kind of get your motivation up to reading, and kind of set some guidelines for you all, and play it by ear. Don't be so rigid with like timing and what you're going to ask. Maybe just take a couple chapters, a friend or so. Um, a really quick question for you guys, because I know we're talking about books, but I think a lot of people really forget that books are also comic books. And I'm sorry if I'm saying them wrong, anime books and those, yeah, comic books. Because Jason was very big on those when it came to my youngest, who didn't love books, but she did like reading comic books. And he was like, well, actually, he struggled reading books. But comics book is what helped him with reading, and has helped a couple kids. Do you guys read any of those, or know anybody who read those?
I don't read any of those, but I
Mhm.
have recommended, like, when I hear parents, oh, they don't want to read, or siblings that are older siblings that have already, like, in first grade and the upper grades, they have asked, oh, they're struggling, and I always do recommend something that they like. Superheroes is such a big thing, so
Mhm.
I consider that a start, at least to start off with that, because that's what their interest is in. So for
Mhm.
sure, that I feel like it's okay to pick up a comic book, but I do not read any comic books. I don't know anything about anime. Have no knowledge on that.
Mhm.
How about you, Billy?
When you mentioned comic books, I was like, did we read it in high school? But no, I read it when I was in college. I took a class on the Holocaust, and there's comics. It's titled Mouse, Maus, about
Mm.
the Holocaust. And I thought it was, I mean, I read about the Holocaust and I would read books on it, but I feel like for people who don't really like to read and want an idea of what some people had to endure, I think Mouse is a great way because it's in comic form. So it makes it easier for someone to read, or if they prefer comics, that's a great way to get them to read about the Holocaust. It's called MAUS. Um,
I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, no. And I was just like with my niece, because she's kind of like my daughter, and I would take her places. I would take her to the bookstore, and we just walk around, see what she likes, what she didn't like, and she likes those the comic books, the anime, and I don't
Mhm.
get it, but yeah, if you get it, I'll buy it. Whatever you want to read, I'll buy it, as long as it's
Yeah.
appropriate for your age, just to get you reading. Because yeah, I'm not going to be like, don't read that, because
Mhm.
I may not
Mhm.
like it, but you may enjoy it. And as long as you're reading, that's all that I care for. So,
Reading is so important. I agree. The comic book. I was not that I was against it when Jason started introducing comic book. I didn't understand it because I was like, "What do you mean comic books? That's not a book." And he was like, "Yeah, look at all these like details in the story and like the problem and the solution, and it allows them to see as the characters are kind of moving on and moving through the storyline." And it's so interesting how much of the comic books she'll read. What's the one that she has upstairs? She has a series. Oh my God, they made it into a show. Okay, I'm going to just speak out to our producer. Jason, what's the comic book series that Bethany likes? It's upstairs. But there's also Roller Girl, that book she read in one day. That's a great book to pick up. Anything about the superheroes is pretty good, depending on which series you get. Oh, Archie Comics.
That's a classic.
um, yeah, Archie Comics. I didn't even know. Honestly, I didn't know, because again, I didn't grow up with books like that in my house. So all I read was what was given to me at school. So for me, he gave me a very different perspective on reading. I forgot where I was going with this. Apologies for that, ladies. I'll throw it back to, I was talking about comic books, but yeah, that's all I had to say.
Let's talk about one of our favorite books. Like, what's a book that like you'll never forget, or that you always, or maybe not recommend so much, but that just, I don't know, speaks to your soul, and one that
Mm,
just one of your
I
favorites.
have so many.
But what's one that you just like for me, it's The Color of Water. I don't
Mm,
remember if I read that in high school or in college. James Baldwin, African American man, writes about, it's like a tribute to his mom. And it was just so touching, and it was just, there was just a lot going on, because here is white mother raising African American children. I forgot what the era was, but that was difficult times. So,
mm-hmm.
and just the way that he wrote, and how much she had to endure to care for her children. I don't know. It's one of my favorite books.
Off the top of my head right now, I have The Kite Runner with, oh
Yes.
crap, I'm forgetting his name. uh Houston. I have it over here. So Kite Runner, it's
Yeah.
a very, what I love about reading is that it can, like you said, Billy, it transports you. It can, not only does it transport you, but it teaches you, especially if it's a nonfiction book or historical fiction. Like it teaches you about different parts of the world. It can kind of take you outside of your everyday life, and it can also give you a different perspective about your everyday life. The Kite Runner, I remember, was recommended to me one time, and then I was like, yeah, the title sounds stupid, I'm not gonna read it. And then I put out a Facebook message and I was like, hey, can somebody recommend something? I need to pick up a book. And someone brought it up, and I looked it up because I didn't do that the first time. And when I read the description, I was like, okay, let's see what this is. And it's a fantastic, phenomenal book. Phenomenal book. And the second book I will bring up, which is the book that I will say has a lot to do with how I changed my life, not because of the book, but because of how the book, the struggles I had with reading the book, which was Angels and Demons by the same author from Da Vinci Code. I remember it was recommended to me by my supervisor. I was 20 at that time, and I was struggling to read the book. I didn't really understand a lot of the words that were there, and I was told, "Oh, Dan Brown." So Angels and Demons by Dan Brown, and I remember asking my boss who recommended the book, called. I was like, what does the word melancholy mean? And she's like, oh, I realized I think I gave you a book that was too difficult. And I kind of felt taken aback that someone would think that I couldn't handle the book. But you know what? I took that in stride. And what I took with me is that though the book was difficult to read at that time, I had a dictionary with me. And every time I struggled with a word, I looked it up. So the reason I'm saying this long part of the story is this book is what allowed me to say, though you are struggling with reading, doesn't mean that you shouldn't read. Take your dictionary, use it, learn it, work with it. And it's the book that allowed me to start loving reading and kind of going into that realm. What about you, Nathy? Which book do you feel like you can remember?
I don't keep books, so I'm like,
No, but in your heart, you keep it in your heart.
right. And I could probably remember a few titles, but I cannot remember probably authors. I'm gonna give you a children's book for one, because I'm a teacher. So Love You
Mm-hmm.
Forever, that one by Robert Munsch. It's a really cute story. Kind of creepy at the end, but it's a really cute story. Just the gist of it is just about a child who's growing up, but the mom is always there for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think The Help was a really good book, which was also made into a movie. I really, really loved that book.
Yes.
I kept that book, but then I lent it to someone and then I never got it back,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine as long as somebody else is enjoying it and enjoyed it as much as I did. That was one
Mm-hmm.
that really, really stayed with me, and I really enjoyed the movie. I definitely do watch movies that have come from books, but I do not watch the movie before I read the book because I feel like it will mess it up for me.
Yeah, agree.
So I think that the books that have come the closest to the movies, or the movies closer to the books, is Harry Potter books. Those are the only ones that I think that have come close to the same as the book. And
I
then
never read.
once you
You
get the
read Harry
gist.
Potter, Nathy?
Yes, I did. I don't look like I read
I
the Harry
didn't know
Potter.
that.
I didn't. You didn't give me a Harry Potter vibe.
No, yeah, I read the Harry Potter books. Yeah.
Oh,
We learned something new today. I didn't know
yes,
that
we
you read
did.
Harry Potter. It's you, Nathy, over here.
I mean, I like a little bit of everything. 50 Shades of Grey. No, you guys read that, right?
I read the first book. I think I read the whole book.
I
don't
read
think
all
I
three of
finished.
them.
I did not.
No.
I was just like, eh.
After the first 50 times that he banged, I was like, all right, that's it. Because
Yeah.
you remember in high school where we used to read Zane? Zane was detailed.
Yes.
It was interesting. It was like, okay, they're sexually active, but it's not the same kind of, I don't know, like it was not expected. I feel like with 50 Shades, we knew. I knew what he was gonna do to her. I was gonna do it to her. Like like in Zane, it was like whoa. Like Zane was like whoa. So I don't know. I think I jumped and skipped like the first book, but then I didn't read the second and third because I was like, it's just gonna be a repetition of the first. And I
mean, the
I lost
books
interest.
were, of course, better than the movies. Don't waste your time in the movies. I feel like the books, like Billy says, it'll take you there. You have your imagination goes to other places and things like that. But definitely, if the books are way better. And then
No,
Zane.
read Zane. If you want some erotic shit, read Zane.
Zane were great books. I think it was a Zane book. I can't remember the title, but I definitely remember the story, and it was definitely not high. Well, I was already in high school. I worked at the library, so I had access to a lot of books there. It was, and I gotta find it. And hopefully, if I find it, or someone can tell me in the text messages, I mean, in the comments, it was about a woman who had a split personality, and she was in college, and she was a virgin, and her other persona was a sex addict who would go out and like have sex. Like the first time it happened was one time while she was studying. So that's how I remember the book. But it was, I mean, I read cover to cover. It was one of the most
Addicted or the
spiciest.
Sex Chronicles?
I don't know. I don't think it was. So I just looked up Zane Addicted, and I don't think that's it. It might be the Sex Chronicles. I believe it was. What did Zane books teach you? Our producers here asking a question.
I don't remember reading them, but I don't remember like anything.
You read the Zane books, Nathy?
Yes.
I mean, we were all reading it in class when we should have been like listening.
We had our own Zane conversations in classroom second period about our own stuff going on. But definitely I agree. 50 Shades of Grey, after like the first couple bangings, I was like, okay, I already know what's gonna happen. I'm over it. I don't want to know. If I can figure it out and I can kind of imagine it, then I don't want to. Not my thing. But Zane books was like drama. It was really, really freaking good. Amazing.
So remind me, because I remember the Zane books, but I don't remember.
And then there was also Sister Soldier Sister, something like that.
I didn't read that. But Zane was just like, it's erotic fiction. It's yeah. If you need something to spice up your sex life, I mean, read together, read in bed, and then do other stuff in bed. I mean,
yeah.
Why not
pick a chapter?
Pick a chapter. Yeah, definitely.
If you could finishing the chapter, you might not even get to finishing the chapter with how spicy she was writing.
Yeah, you can read it to each other, or you can. So Jason and I have actually listened to a couple of audibles, which is funny because at the end of the book that I mentioned, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Sorry, guys. Hold on.
So what did you learn, Billy, in that book? Well, Betsy's dog. Yeah.
I don't know. Things have been dry over here, so I'm not the person to ask. I probably forgot everything that I learned. I need to reread those books, actually.
Oh gosh.
Ah,
Well, I actually, what I was going to say was we ended up listening to half the book. So Audible, if you don't want to read it, you can listen to Audible together. And
Mhm,
it kind of is like somewhat soft porn if you
mhm.
want it like without that. You can kind of listen to the Audible books together. So it's a
Right.
good,
If you're not comfortable watching it, maybe you can get comfortable just listening to it and imagining.
exactly.
Right.
And it doesn't have to necessarily be sexy. So like I was
Right.
saying, the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, that one wasn't that it was sexy. It was just an intriguing story that I definitely didn't want to read out loud to him and he didn't want to read out loud to me, but it was good to listen to together. And it was like, oh my God, what the hell is going on and what's gonna happen? Um, so it's one of those things. Though I'm being told I went to sleep, which I doubt I went to sleep. I know we went to sleep at 2 in the morning finishing the book. So
Oh, I thought it was
it's a
finishing on
good
something
couple
else.
thing.
yeah. Mm.
I was hoping you said you went to sleep at 2 a.m. doing something else, not
No,
finishing.
no, I was listening to the book. This one wasn't erotica. That's other stories. That's
Oh, okay.
other books.
That's another episode? Okay.
That's another episode.
Trying to remember what else.
Oh.
I don't know. But anyway, we're very into whatever sounds interesting. And I think we also have picked books based on the cover, which backfired on us that one time with the Gothic Mexicana. What was it called? It was beautiful
Mexican
cover.
Gothic.
Mexican Gothic.
Yeah.
Beautiful cover, but it was like, what the fuck? Like, wasn't one of
See
our
that
favorites.
book? I think that book to me, if you're gonna read Mexican Gothic, the ending they spent so much time building up the story that they started to lose us. It got great towards the end and they should have spent more time on the action that happened at the end. It was too much buildup. It was too much. It was just I think that's where the author went wrong in my opinion. They could have kind of spent more time there, kind of involved a little bit more drama or made the book shorter. There was just too much buildup in my opinion. But what I did feel with that book was that when I saw the new series, is it The Last of Us? Yeah, The Last of Us with the mushroom thing.
Yeah,
Okay, you
I
guys
don't
haven't watched
know.
it. Okay, so there's a show called The Last of Us.
Oh,
It's
yes, the
about
game. Is a
the
game.
game. It's like the
Yeah.
game, but now they
Yeah.
made the show. I didn't know. I don't play video games like that. So I didn't know that that was a video game. So when I watched the series, I was like, oh crap, that mushroom thing is a lot like what happened in Mexican Gothic. So it kind of allowed me to maybe appreciate it a little bit more. But again, I would have preferred more of the ending. I just, they waited too long towards the
Okay.
end. I was just like, get it over with. I just want to freaking know what the hell happened. Why is it? So I read it just to find out what was wrong, not that because I wanted to finish the book. I don't know. I have so many books that I can go into. Sorry, guys.
So, I mean, I think my advice to our listeners is for myself personally, what I do is if I want to read a book, obviously reach out to your friends and like Betsy has posted on Facebook or your social media, ask, oh, what are you guys reading? What do you guys recommend? What I also do is I go to the New York Times bestsellers and I read, obviously go through which genre you're interested in and read what's trending
Yeah.
and choose from there. What about you, Billy? What do you recommend?
The same. I mean, I really am looking forward to picking up back up on the book club because it made me I guess more accountable because I was like, oh my god, I have to read these pages by like Friday or Saturday or Sunday or whatever day. Otherwise, it's just like, oh, I'll just read it another time. I'll read another time. Whereas when I knew we were meeting, I would take my book on the train because now I just like I don't know. I just bullshit on my phone while I'm on the train, going to work or wherever. And that's not the best way to use my time. I would much rather read a book. So I am looking forward to meeting up with the girls again for book club because again, feeling like, okay, I'm being held accountable is making me, and not that it's forcing me because I do enjoy reading, but I'm making sure now that I am spending that time dedicated to reading a book.
Mm-hmm.
So start with a small book club. Yeah, just be 2 people, right? And we meet virtually. We don't meet, in person, which makes things a
Yeah.
lot easier, especially because one person is in another state. And be flexible. Like, I appreciate my girls so much because I'm always like, it's me again. Can we reschedule? And we do meet that weekend that we're supposed to meet, but sometimes we don't meet on it. So just be flexible with it. Yeah. And just have fun with it. Reading,
I was gonna say
fun. Yeah.
fun, yeah. I think for me, for reading, the recommendations I have is I will quote ditto everything everybody said. One of the things, if you have everyone in your state, I actually know a few people who do their own book club, and they do it with like a cocktail night, but they do meet like once a month to do the finishing of the book. So you can guys go out, you can have at home, virtual meetings, or at home like gatherings. You could bring a book club, which is actually, I told my daughter this, that her and her friends like to cook. So I was like, why don't you guys do a cookbook book club, where you read the cookbook and you cook something from the book, and then you guys meet up or do it virtually since they're all in college right now. And then my last recommendation is social media. There's a lot of book club pages. And the cool thing about them is sometimes they'll get into what kind of book they're reading, and they'll give you a little bit of details, because sometimes you want to be able to know what you're reading. And then my last one is, if you are trying to just get yourself out there, you don't really have that community, go to a bookstore, or a coffee shop that has books. You don't have to buy the book. You can read it there. Go to the library. The Mid-Manhattan Library on 40th actually has a rooftop. So you can read and be outside. And it's completely remodeled. So there's many ways that you can get to books, and there's a lot of free books as well. So read as much as you can.
Go out there and start reading.
Yeah. Go out there. And actually, please let us know what you're reading, or any books that you think that you would recommend for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. Okay, so I think we've had a wonderful conversation about books. We love you all. Hope to see you soon. Let us know what you thought about this. Follow us on social media, Facebook. YouTube, on Spotify, Instagram. Let us know what you thought about this episode and any books you recommend. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Happy
Bye.
reading.
Happy reading.